I used to believe there were two types of men in this world, the ones who cheat and the ones who get cheated on. Turns out, I was naive. There's a third type, the guy who thinks he's in the second group, until he realizes he was just kept in the dark longer than most. That weekend, I had no idea I was on the edge of a cliff. I was barefoot, drinking coffee on the porch of our lake house, our supposed sanctuary from the city grind, watching the morning fog rise off the water like it was holding on to secrets. The sun was lazy, the kind of golden that makes you think life is kind and forgiving. "Logan," she called from inside, "you want eggs or waffles?" My wife, Melanie, stood there in her old college sweatshirt, barefoot, hair in a messy bun, like some Pinterest version of a perfect weekend. I smiled. "Surprise me." And just like that, the trap was set. Casual, innocent, comfortable. The truth is, when someone's been lying to you long enough, they get real good at playing sincere. That morning, she kissed my cheek, poured my coffee, laughed at my joke about the neighbor's weird new yoga routine. Everything about her was curated, loving but not clingy, domestic but still sharp. "Think we should get kayaks?" I asked later, standing by the dock, watching a family paddle past. "Sure," she said, brushing against me. "Let's get two." And just like that, she sold me the fantasy again. We spent the rest of the day like a couple out of a magazine. Hikes. Homemade pizza. Wine on the deck under string lights she'd insisted on hanging. I should have noticed the way her smile flickered every time she checked her phone. The way her replies were quick and typed with her thumbs, her pinky hovering like she was composing a love sonnet, not checking a group chat. But I didn't. Because I was a fool. Because I still believed in us. That night, we lay in bed listening to cicadas hum like a lullaby, and she whispered, "We should come here more often." "Yeah," I murmured, sleep already tugging at me. She nodded. "Just us. Away from all the noise." Turns out, that was code. Because what she really meant was, let's keep you distracted while I finish burning this marriage to the ground. But I didn't know that yet. Not that night. Not yet. Monday morning hit like it always does. Alarm clock, bad coffee, and the existential dread of city traffic. We drove back from the lake in mostly comfortable silence. Melanie played her true crime podcast, the one where cheerful narrators talk about gruesome murders like they're describing brunch. She loved that stuff. Said it helped her relax. Now that I think about it, that should have been my first clue. At one point, she turned to me and said, "Babe, can you drop me at the office today? My car's still at the garage." I glanced at her. "Didn't you get it back last Thursday?" She hesitated, barely a beat, but enough. "Right. No, I meant, they called and said something else came up. Battery issue. I'll pick it up later this week." She was smooth, I'll give her that. But I'm not a moron. I just liked pretending I was when it kept the peace. I dropped her off, kissed her on the cheek, and watched her walk into her building. She didn't look back. Not once. That's when something in my stomach shifted. I turned the corner and parked around the block. Waited. 10 minutes later, she walked back out, got into a black Lexus SUV that definitely didn't belong to any mechanic. That was the first moment I knew. I didn't have proof. Just a visual. Just her walking into someone else's car like she didn't just call me babe 10 minutes earlier. My hands were steady on the steering wheel, but my pulse was having a rave. I didn't follow them. I didn't throw a fit. I didn't even get angry. No, I got smart. Because if she thought I was the kind of man who explodes on suspicion, she was dead wrong. That night, she came home humming, tossed her purse on the counter like it hadn't betrayed me all day. I poured us wine, smiled through my teeth, and watched her unlock her phone with that same muscle memory I used to think was cute. "Oh, almost forgot," she said, pulling something out of her bag. "Got you a new keychain. Says number 1 husband on it." I stared at it for a second. A tiny, stupid gesture. But in that moment, I saw it for what it really was, a trophy for a game I didn't know I was playing. A participation medal in a marriage she was already disassembling piece by piece. "Thanks," I said, looping it onto my keys like I was none the wiser. Because the thing about revenge? It tastes better slow. Wednesday started like any other lie. Coffee. Shirt ironed. A quick kiss goodbye. But that morning, her smile was just a second too late. Her hug lasted just a moment too short. Funny how the little things scream the loudest once you've started listening. I waited until she left. Then I went hunting. No, I'm not proud of what I did. But I'm also not ashamed. Not when someone turns your home into a stage and casts you as the fool. Her laptop was still open on the kitchen counter. Melanie always claimed to be too technically challenged to set up a password. I used to think it was endearing. Now I realized it was just carelessness masquerading as confidence. I clicked open her messages. There it was, top of the list. Evan locked. That little lock emoji was supposed to be cute. To me, it looked like the smug grin of a man who thought he'd won. The thread was long. Months. I scrolled past the selfies, the inside jokes, the heart emojis. Some messages were harmless if you didn't know better. Others were not. One from the week before. I can't wait to see you again this weekend. He still thinks we're going to my mom's. And another, earlier. You make me feel alive. With him, I just feel responsible. Responsible. That was my role in her life. Not partner. Not love. Not man. Just responsible. I closed the laptop and sat on the edge of the bed we shared. My fists weren't clenched. My eyes weren't even watery. Just still. You ever realize someone's been lying to you not by what they said, but by how well they said it? That's the kind of silence that doesn't echo. It just sits in your chest, heavy and permanent. She came home that night like nothing had changed. She laughed at some podcast, told me about traffic, kissed my cheek with the same mouth that had whispered, "I love you," to someone else. And when she asked me if I could pick up dry cleaning the next morning, I smiled, because I already had the receipt, and the name on it wasn't mine. I didn't bring it up that night, or the next. That's the thing about betrayal. People expect rage. They expect fireworks. But what they don't expect is patience. Melanie had no idea I was spending every free moment building a case. I wasn't looking for closure. I wasn't going to beg or demand an apology. I was building something better. Something that couldn't be denied or spun. Something she'd never see coming. Thursday morning, I went to the dry cleaner like she asked. I didn't care about her silk blouse. I cared about the receipt I had seen in her laptop's photo gallery, the one she'd taken to show Evan some expensive shirt he'd left behind after their little getaway. What kind of mistress takes souvenir pictures of receipts? The kind that gets sloppy. Picking up for Melanie Foster, I said at the counter. The woman behind the desk barely looked up. Foster? Yeah, just a sec. She returned with 2 hangers. A blouse I'd seen her wear at our anniversary dinner last year, and a pressed button-down, navy, size large. It definitely wasn't mine. I hadn't worn a large since college, and even back then, the buttons begged for mercy. I raised an eyebrow. That one's not mine. Oh, she said casually. You're not Evan? Bingo. No, I said dead calm. I'm her husband. Her face paled. Oh, sorry. It's just, she's usually with him when she drops things off. I gave her a polite smile. Don't be. That's good to know. She bagged the shirt quickly and slid it across the counter like it might explode. I walked out holding a navy blue confession on a hanger. When I got home, she was already there, curled up on the couch with a throw blanket and her phone tilted just enough to suggest privacy. When she saw me, she quickly flipped the screen down. You're early, she said, her voice a touch too casual. They were quick today, I replied, holding up the garment bag. You forgot to mention Evan's shirt. Her eyes flickered. That subtle microsecond of delay where her brain raced for a cover story. Oh, she said slowly. That must have gotten mixed in. Probably from when we all went to that conference in San Diego. Remember? You dropped me at the airport. The one I couldn't come to because of the quarterly review? Yeah, he must have. I don't know. Thrown it in my suitcase by accident. I said. That makes sense. Spoiler, it didn't. She seemed relieved I'd bought it, which was flattering in a tragic sort of way. I sat down across from her. Not next to her. Across. Like we were in a boardroom. I've been thinking, I said, setting the hanger gently on the coffee table. About us. Her smile froze. Okay, I think we're out of sync. I felt it for a while. You've probably felt it too. I mean, maybe, she said carefully, eyes narrowing like she was trying to read what game I was playing. I think we need to take a break. Reassess. Her mouth opened, then closed. This wasn't the script she expected. Like therapy, she offered. I shook my head. No, I don't think therapy solves dishonesty. There it was. The first real crack in her expression. I never lied to you. Mel, I said calmly. Don't insult us both. She stood, suddenly defensive. What is this? Some weird passive-aggressive guilt trip. Nope. This is a mirror, and you're staring into it. She blinked, genuinely startled. What does that mean? I reached into my pocket and placed her phone on the table. The lock screen still showed the last notification. Evan, still thinking about this weekend. That dress should be a legal face-blowing kiss. Her face drained of color. She reached for the phone, but I slid it away. I'm not here to yell, or beg, or fight. I'm here to tell you I know. I've known for a while. I've seen the messages, the photos, the hotel reservations you used your personal credit card for. Melanie didn't say a word. She sat back down slowly, as if gravity itself was heavier than before. You went from being my partner to being an actress, I said. And I've got to admit, the performance? Convincing. But the encore's over. I didn't mean to, she started, but I cut her off. Stop. Please. Don't embarrass either of us with a monologue. Just sit with it. Sit with the fact that I know. She looked down at her hands. They were shaking. What are you going to do? She asked quietly. Nothing. Yet. She looked up, confused. I want you to tell Evan. Tell him I know. Tell him we'll be having a little chat soon. No threats, no theatrics. Just a conversation. Man to man. He's not like that, she said quickly. He's not going to want any drama. Then he probably shouldn't have messed with another man's wife. Melanie stared at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Because the man she married? He would have stormed out, thrown a lamp, shouted about betrayal. But this man? This man was patient. And very, very dangerous. Evan didn't know we were meeting, of course. Melanie was supposed to give him a heads up. But I had a feeling she wouldn't. Not out of loyalty, out of fear. So, I took matters into my own hands. I sent the message from her phone. One simple text. Hey, can you meet me at Haven Brew? Need to talk. It's important. He replied 3 minutes later. Sure. Everything okay? Not really. You'll see. It was the kind of message that drips anxiety. Let him squirm. Let him guess which of his lies had finally fallen apart. Haven Brew was a boutique cafe downtown, the kind of place that serves espresso with a lecture on bean origin. He walked in 5 minutes late, sunglasses on, wearing a tight gray sweater and a smile 2 sizes too smug for a guy about to have his day ruined. I was already seated at a small table near the window. Sunlight cut across the floor like a spotlight, and I figured, why not? Let him squirm under the heat a little. He didn't recognize me right away. That hurt more than I expected. You sleep with a man's wife for 6 months and can't pick him out of a coffee shop lineup? Evan, I said, standing. He froze. His brain caught up with his body about 2 seconds too late. He tried to recover, offered a half-hearted smile. Logan, right? Melanie's husband. Yes. He sat down slowly. She didn't say you'd be here. No, she didn't. I sent the text. Using her phone. He glanced around the cafe like someone was going to come rescue him. Newsflash, no cavalry for cowards. I leaned forward, elbows on the table. Relax. I didn't call you here to fight. I'm not that guy. That's good, he said, forcing a laugh. Because I don't do drama, man. This is between you and her. See, I said, that's where you're wrong. Because you made it about me the moment you stepped into my marriage. So, now you and I are having a little clarity session. He swallowed hard. Look, Logan, I didn't mean for this to get so complicated, eh? Stop. I'm not here for your regret. I'm here for the facts. He sat back, eyebrows drawn tight. What do you want? I want to understand what kind of man knowingly gets involved with someone else's wife. Was it the thrill? The secrecy? The ego? I didn't know at first. Please, I said, calmly. Let's not waste each other's time. You knew. You knew she was married. And you knew I existed. You just didn't care. He was quiet for a moment. Then, almost defensively, she said it was over between you two. I nodded. Classic line. Did she also tell you she made French toast with me the morning after your little Napa weekend? Because she did. Extra cinnamon, her idea. That one hit him. I watched it land. His smile cracked just a little. I'm not here to make threats, Evan. I'm not going to post your name online or show up at your office. He leaned in, confused. Then what is this? Some twisted therapy session? No, I said, smiling. This is me giving you a gift. The gift of foresight. Because you don't really know her, do you? He blinked. What? You think you're special. That she chose you. That you somehow pulled her away from a broken marriage like a knight in shining Lululemon. He frowned. But you're just the current version of exciting. Temporary. Novelty in a tight shirt. Do you honestly think you're the first? His lips parted slightly. You're not even the most recent, I added. Now that got him. What are you saying? I shrugged. I'm saying you weren't the only one she was texting. Evan, you were on the Thursday schedule. There's a Daniel on Tuesdays. And someone named Trey who thinks she's single. That right there? That was the moment the smug left his face like someone pulled the drain. She said she was loyal to me, he muttered. Oh, buddy, I said, almost feeling bad. She said that to me, too, right after our honeymoon. It's kind of her catchphrase. He stared at the table, hands balled into fists. Why are you doing this? Because I want you to know what it feels like. The doubt. The humiliation. The moment when you realize you were just a character in someone else's fantasy. The barista called his name for a coffee he'd forgotten he ordered. He stood up slowly, like gravity had gotten stronger. So what now? Now? You do what you want. Block her. Date her. Marry her, if you're the kind of guy who likes living on a landmine. I stood too, buttoned my jacket. But just know, every time she looks at her phone and smiles, you'll wonder if it's about you. And then I left. Melanie was waiting when I got home. Arms crossed. Jaw tight. Like I had done something wrong. You had no right to do that, she snapped the second I walked through the door. No right to what? I asked, hanging up my coat. To ambush Evan. He said you humiliated him. Good. Now he knows how I felt for months. She paced like a cat that just discovered the food bowl was empty. That wasn't your decision to make. This is my life. No, Melanie. It was our life. Until you started handing out pieces of it like free samples at a grocery store. She turned sharply. I didn't mean for it to happen this way. No one ever does, I said, walking past her to the kitchen. But here we are. She followed, arms still folded, but quieter now. So, what happens next? I poured myself water, took a slow sip, and looked her dead in the eyes. Next, I said, you move out. Her breath hitched. You're serious. Dead serious. I've already talked to a lawyer. You'll get a fair split. I'm not out to destroy you. Just to reclaim what's mine. And what's that? Peace. Over the next few days, the house got quieter. Not calmer. Just hollow. Melanie packed in silence, like a thief cleaning up after the lights were turned on. I didn't speak much. I didn't need to. Every word between us now was just filler between endings. I gathered a box of things she wouldn't think to grab, trinkets, notes, anniversary cards she gave me with recycled poetry and hand-picked lies. I put it all in a plain cardboard box labeled Goodwill. She saw it by the door one evening and asked, "What's in there?" "Stuff that used to mean something," I said. "It doesn't anymore." She looked like she wanted to argue, but didn't. She just nodded and went back to wrapping a glass vase in newspaper. Probably one she bought during that Napa trip and swore was from the office sale. By the end of the week, she was gone. No, not that kind of will. I'm talking about the one I rewrote the day after Melanie left, the will to win. Not out of spite. Not for revenge. For truth. For dignity. And yes, maybe a little drama. I sent a letter to her office addressed to Human Resources. Attached was a USB drive. The content? Screenshots. Dozens of them. Photos. Hotel bookings. Timestamped texts. Every one of them connected to Evan, her direct report. That's right, he worked under her. HR took one look at it and started asking questions that made Melanie squirm. Questions like, was this consensual? Did he receive preferential treatment? Were other employees aware? And the best one. Why didn't you disclose the relationship? She was asked to resign, not fired. They always wrap it in velvet. But make no mistake, her career didn't just hit a speed bump. It flew off the cliff. She tried to call me. Left a voicemail that said, "How could you ruin my career?" I didn't respond. I wasn't interested in apologies typed on corporate letterhead. People think rock bottom is loud. It's not. It's quiet. It's coming home to a house that still smells like her perfume but no longer holds her presence. It's folding laundry and finding a blouse that never fit you. It's hearing the silence and realizing for the first time it's peaceful. I didn't date right away. Didn't hit the gym for a revenge body. I just sat with it. Let it hurt. Let it heal. I took a solo trip to the lake house. The one that once held illusions of a happy couple. I burned some old photos in the fire pit. Watched them curl and vanish. By spring, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Weightless. I saw her again. Months later. Grocery store parking lot. She looked older. Or maybe just more tired. She smiled like someone who still thought she might be forgiven. "Hey," she said. "Hey." She glanced at the paper bag in my arms. "Doing okay?" "I am, actually." She looked surprised. "That's good. I wasn't sure you would be. You know, after everything." I nodded. "You know the funny thing about everything?" "What?" "It becomes nothing after a while." She looked like she wanted to say more, but I just smiled, tipped my head, and walked away. No grand monologue. No dramatic closure. Just a man who used to be broken, now whole, and walking home in peace.